Hey, welcome back to Seven Anubis Farms. It's been a very busy summer in the garden this year, and while we dream of doing flying over the mountains and looking at beautiful vacation destination spots, it's been a lot of this. And it's been a lot of that. Which results in a lot of this. Creating some new food, selling our product to chefs, lots of farmers market, getting set up for that. And someday we might get back to doing this, but let's see how some of the garden looks this year. Well, another fun thing happening this week is the smoke. I'm sure everybody's pretty aware, but thought I'd take a shot of this right before the sun actually went over the horizon. Maybe I can doctor it up a little bit or something, but it is truly just a little red orb. Let's see if I zoom in. Yeah, you can kind of see, but yeah, the smoke is really bad. Everybody be safe out there that's in those fire areas here in Colorado. I understand there's some up by Lyons. They had to evacuate some folks today, so I hope everybody's okay. But yeah, here's a quick shot of what it looks like pretty much on the whole west half of the United States right now. So these petunias, they just come up out of nowhere. Seeds spread from last year's stuff, but it looks really pretty. And the hostas have done really well too. All flowering right now. Looking pretty good. A few more random petunias. And then some of these hostas are just this year, so they haven't really started to perk up or flower to get to maturity, but this should really fill in nicely next year. Just a small example of what we're starting to pull out of the garden now. That's some nice looking cherry tomatoes, some Romas sprinkled in. Some tomatillos over here. Starting to look really good. Well, they do look good. Kentucky pole beans. Got them picked today. And some snow peas. So this year we introduced row crops, or just putting things in row. I don't know why they have to be labeled quite so much that way, but it's kind of a new thing for us because we traditionally did everything in garden boxes. You can see that things are in various stages of growth and or harvest. The onions did really well this year. We get our onions from Dixondale, who specializes in onions. They seem to have done really well. As you can see, some of these are looking really decent size. You know, bigger than a baseball, almost softball size for some. You can see that they're, it's kind of towards the end of the day, so some of them are laying over a little bit just because of the heat. But they're getting closer. So we'll start pulling these here pretty soon. Right behind there is our tomatillos. These guys have went crazy. Doing really well. I'll probably get several hundred tomatillos out of this year. You can still see a lot of flowers. If you get in closer though, we can see that there's quite a few tomatillos in here. If you're not familiar with tomatillos, they're a lot like a tomato. They grow about the same way, except for they have a slightly different type of thing to them where they have a husk. So you can see here
This is kind of a little husk, and it's poofy like paper. And inside is the tomatillo. Right, and they grow inside of there. And when they're ready, these will get full, right? And this one's pretty close, really. So you can feel them, but you got to kind of touch them. So anyway, I pulled a whole bunch for farmer's market that's tomorrow. But there'll be just gobs of them. In this third row, I've got a variety of leaf lettuce and head lettuce going. Kind of late season lettuce crop going. My leaf lettuce over here looks a little wilty right now. Probably could use a little bit of water, but we're fixing to get some rain, so I'm not going to water tonight. But this is going pretty well. These guys are growing really well. You can see we've got some shade cloth over them to kind of keep that direct sun off of them, as they'll get burned up otherwise. But for some late season stuff, this is looking really nice, and we'll get some of this harvested soon for farmer's market. And then I'm doing a little bit of bed prep today, even to throw in some more Swiss chard, some romaine lettuce, and I'm trying to think. That's probably about it for this row. And then I've also got some pak choy, which I'm going to put over here in this empty spot, which I cleared out of the cabbage for the early season cabbage, and we'll put in some Chinese cabbage, pak choy, in this spot here as it starts to cool off again for a late season cabbage crop. Now we're into the green beans. This year I did Kentucky pole beans. They're doing really well. Climbing up our little trellis, doing their thing. Looks like I missed a few, but that's okay. They're doing really well. I'm pretty pleased with these guys. You have to pardon my beat up hands. But the pole beans are doing really well. Behind over here is some peas. Did snow sugar peas this year. They didn't take off quite as well as I'd like, but we're getting more peas than you may think. And the season, as it starts to cool off, some of this stuff really takes off in the fall. Into the herb area, on the far side of there, we've got tarragon. Right here, we've got sage. Shauna's just came through and did some harvesting of that. We've got lemongrass over here, followed up with some oregano. I'd like the oregano to have done a little better, but it's not bad. But not great either, right? I'll be honest. I wish the oregano had taken off a little bit better, like the basil over here, doing really well. This is not our only spot for basil. We've got parsley over here in the corner. Some of this has got taken over by, surrounded by weeds, but the area it's planted in is pretty good. Come over and see our eggplants. Did 2 circular raised beds on these. These guys have got more on here than I probably will know what to do with. Hopefully they'll get a little bit more size. We got quite a few in here, but they're getting closer. There's some decent sized ones in here. Just, I don't know, there's probably 30 or 40 each side. They should get fairly bigger. Cherry tomatoes right here, these guys went completely nuts. I'm going to have to trellis them a little bit better next year. Carrots in this box. We'll start harvesting these guys here pretty quick. I can see a couple of grasshoppers on here, but they'll be all right. Carrots did really well, and we've already harvested some carrots out of this box. And then Roma, more Roma back there, another Roma over here, Roma, And they're all tomatoes. They're just now starting to ripen. So there's probably 300, 400, 500 easy Roma tomatoes in these boxes. And we'll start getting those pulled for a farmer's market, probably starting the end of this week. I've already pulled a few, but most of them coming in. Oh my God. How do you miss these? It's always crazy to me how you miss a cucumber every now and again. These are pickling cucumbers this year. Cucumber boxes did really well, almost to the top of the trellis. Got all kinds of them in here. Hard to keep up with almost. Like I said, picking those, they should not really be that big. Although you can use those for certain other kinds of things, like heavily flavored or spiced pickles. Like we like to make cinnamon pickles. But your average one should be probably a little bit more about like this size here. If you guys can see that guy right there, that's a pickling cucumber. Maybe just a little bigger than that would be a good size. The idea is that you can just put whole ones in a jar, pickle them up, and away you go. We've already pulled, I don't know, at least 100 or so cucumbers out of here. And aside from this big monster that I somehow missed, we've already picked them for farmer's market tomorrow. So we've got that ready to go, but they'll just keep coming. You can see all the flowers still. And then there's a whole nother box back here. Same kind of pickling cucumber over here. But they're doing fantastic. You can see that guy there. That's probably a little closer to what you're really wanting for pickling cucumbers. But pretty pleased with the results on these guys. They did really well. I did a second planting just to make sure that we didn't have any issues this year, because last year they got hit by hail and we were unable to really get any cucumbers at all. This year we're getting cucumbers. So pretty pleased about that. Plant quality looks pretty good. Not a lot of powdery mildew or anything like that on there. Pretty pleased with the cucumber crop all the way. A little closer look at the Romas. You can see these guys hiding out in here. There are lots of green ones. It's only mid-August though, so we're right on track. This is not the part where we have a bunch of green tomatoes that we just can't do anything with. But you guys can see that these guys are starting to come in really well. Now that's a fantastic looking Roma tomato. Not quite ripe. I'll pull that guy in a couple of days. This one's really close too. Looking really good. But there's just gobs of them in here. And believe it or not, I did trellis these up pretty well. These are a determinate tomato variety this year for the Romas, which is kind of a departure for us. Usually we do indeterminate, which we would do a lot of more pruning. They would be way beyond probably the top of the trellis by now. This is a little easier in terms of maintenance, but I'm not so sure it's easier in terms of volume of crop, or not. Kind of an experiment, kind of not. I mean, it's not like I haven't grown these in the past, but doing really well. I'm pretty pleased with the overall quality on these guys. I mean, there's a good example of a decent looking Roma. Sometimes they'll just kind of fall off in your hand. You know they're ready anyway. Put in a second row of Romas over here. These guys are behind probably a month. You can see that they're fruiting though. Little tiny fruits, little tiny tomatoes. These guys should get just about right by the time season's over here. And so we're getting closer. The 7 got really dry this year, I'll be honest, but the RO in here is doing really well. I've got a random black-eyed Susan hanging out here. You guys can see that we're going to get that rain here in a little bit. Weeds have been a challenge. You can see the other circular box over there. That's full of eggplants as well. Weeds have been a challenge, as they usually are. This is our potato patch over here. Up on these mountains is potatoes. However, there are weeds in the middle. Kind of bothers me from a gardening perspective to have so many weeds. But really, they're honestly mostly like a surface weed. Like goat head stickers, stuff that sits on the top and doesn't really have a lot of roots that are very deep, so not really affecting things. Although I'd like to get this cleaned up just a little bit more. The potatoes are doing pretty well. We'll probably get more potatoes than we know what to do with, just like last year. The chickens are going crazy this morning. This is our pepper area, what we call the pyramid, mostly because we put this little brick pyramid here. Anyway, the marigolds have really taken over. There are peppers in here, believe it or not. You can see the plants in here. And we have jalapenos and banana peppers. You can see these guys are all hiding back here. In a way, the marigolds, when they get this big, do provide a lot of shade, right? So that kind of helps the peppers out just a little bit. They do like sun peppers do, but a little shade doesn't hurt. But this is crazy. This is chamomile, interlaced with some bindweed that needs to get pulled out, but that's what this is chamomile. There's some chives mixed into here. Both the marigold and the chives are a natural insect deterrent for bad bugs. But yeah, this is a little crazy. On the other hand, these marigolds really look pretty. Beyond that is the other eggplant box, which also has a jillion eggplants on it. Which are looking pretty good, but just a little small. So I have to figure out how to make my eggplants get a little bit bigger. And I think I got them a little crowded, maybe, and maybe you got to pick off some of the small ones so the bigger ones will grow. First year doing eggplant ever, so I'm gonna chalk it up as a success. This is a win.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
Also, we've done a lot of work with flowers this year. We have, we should have probably taken better video throughout this last couple of weeks here, but things get busy, and everybody that farms knows that story. Some Rudbeckia back here. These guys are looking really good. I think the big trick with these guys is to keep them pruned, get the dead stuff off, get the spent spent flowers off, and they'll really just kind of grow and grow. The hibiscus over here is now blooming. Looks fantastic. I really dig these guys. There's our girl Freya in the background there. But these hibiscus are a cold weather variety that will grow in Colorado, northern Colorado, just fine. So it's a really nice addition to our flower garden, which is, you can see the yarrow right next to it, which is, sort of finally tapering off for the season. If you guys watch the videos a lot, you'll see that we've got these zinnias in here. They did really well all year long, all summer long. Lots of bloom, lots of growth. They really do fantastic. So I think that's something I'll be doing more of next year. And then you can see over here where we've got more of the hibiscus coming up with tons and tons of flowers on them. These guys will flower all the way up until about mid-October, and once it starts getting pretty cold, they'll shut down. They are perennial though, and they'll just come right back next year, so pretty pleased about that. Some random black-eyed Susans, of course, you guys can see those running around, but the flowers overall really fantastic. Bachelor's buttons all along the side over here. Did have a little problem with washout, as you can see the big blank spot in the back. Planted the seeds, and then a lot of them kind of washed down to the front over here. Should have just done some succession planting with those, but didn't. But either way, they still look really nice. You can see once they flower, they kind of get to this spent state, of course, but that's just full of seeds. So these guys will self-seed themselves into next year. So they're really sharp. Like I said, they're a little bit towards the end of their season for the year, but here's what they really look like. And I think they're really pretty. Well, that's a quick garden review for this year. Thank you very much for watching this video. It's been a very exciting summer in the garden. Our first true time doing market garden. I'm pretty pleased overall with it. A lot of this has been kind of a trial and error test year. Something you want to just try a few things, see what's going to sell at market, what's not going to sell at market, what should you focus on next year, what shouldn't you focus on next year. Learned a lot about timing of plants, how to get them into your plant room or your greenhouse or whatever that might be, so you can do your seedling starts indoors, so you can time. It's timing. Everything is timing. How soon do you have to have the seeds in? When do you need to get them outside? What type of plants need to go outside and when? Like your brassicas need to go out in the fall, or the spring early, either one. Some of the other stuff's hot weather stuff. It doesn't really matter that much. It thrives in the hot weather, like peppers, tomatoes, green beans, peas, things like that. They all do really well. Beets, things like that. They all like hot weather. Lettuce, leafy greens, they don't like hot weather at all. So if you don't time some of this right, you're not going to have things for your farmer's market. Those were some of our biggest lessons learned. Aside from that, though, like I said before, I'm really pleased that everybody came and watched this video. We'll keep cranking these out a little bit more often. It has been very busy. I'll give it that. There's no excuse, really. Not trying to keep our audience in the dark or anything, but we just have been very busy. Two-person operation. You can only get so much video in. We'll catch you guys next time. Here in a couple of days, I've got another video about how we put in some of our leafy greens here in the fall. So we'll see you next time, and thanks a lot.